Hello guys, and welcome back to Cobalt. Sorry about the noise in the background. I wanted to get this one recorded before the sun sets, but there's an airplane warming up its engine at the runway over there, so sorry about the background noise. I'm hoping that this ends up being my best video yet. I really want to pack a ton of information into this that I think is going to benefit everybody who watches it. What I'm going to be talking about here is the importance of your nerves as it relates to strength. You've probably heard the phrase, strength is a skill. However, I don't think that there's been enough elaboration on what that actually means and how that impacts your training. So I'm going to be elaborating on what it means for strength to be a skill, how does that relate to your training, and how is that going to translate to you becoming stronger and more effective as an arm wrestler. A little bit of background to establish credibility. I'm a professional tennis instructor, which means I deal with skill training as my profession. I have to be effective at developing effective motor pathways. If I'm not good at that, my job, my product doesn't work. You know, my product that I provide as a tennis instructor is consolidated and effective motor skills. You know, forehands, backhands, serves, volleys, etc. So I have 10 years of experience in developing explosive motor movements, and my goal here with this video is to take all of that knowledge that I built up with developing tennis skills and apply it to arm wrestling. So strength is a skill. What the hell does that mean? First of all, let's talk about what a skill is, okay? Yeah, being good at something, that's a skill, but what does it really mean when you're good at something? It means that you have actually adapted your nervous system to be optimized for the motor patterns that you're good at. Your nervous system transforms on a daily basis to adapt to whatever you're doing. The things that you train, the things that you do, become more habituated through more repetition. What is habit? What is skill? It is myelin, for lack of a better term. Myelin is the neuronal insulation that improves the function of your nerves. Basically, myelin theory is the idea that when you repeatedly practice something, the nerves connected to that thing become more insulated, more effective, and just better at doing the thing. A little bit of, I guess, cellular biology here. Myelin theory of strength is that your axons, which are your little nervous cables, for lack of a better term, your axons thicken and your myelin thickens when you practice. And what that leads to is improved neural drive, better conductive velocity of your skills, you get better signal preservation, you get improved motor control, you get improved coordination. My neighbor's over here spying on me, that's why I'm making funny faces. You get greater muscle recruitment, you have more efficient and effective signaling, and the ultimate goal is you develop automaticity, which is the automatic execution of a skill that doesn't depend on any sort of cognitive intention, right? Like, you eventually will get to the point where your stuff just happens automatically. You don't have to think your way through it. That's what, you know, high levels of skill results in. So basically, as you practice, you're signaling to your body to adapt your nervous system to the skill, and that results in the myelination process, which is essentially a microscopic wrapping of insulation around the axon. And with enough myelination, it actually signals the axon to grow as well. So you grow thicker nerves and then thicker insulation around the nerve. And through repeated, regular, deliberate practice, you can thicken the nerves and you can improve the function of those nerves. So how do we train as arm wrestlers to do that? How do we improve our nerves as arm wrestlers? Well, first of all, the conventional method of arm wrestling practice is garbage for nervous system training, because most of the time it's like once a week and you tear yourself up so much that you can't arm wrestle anymore. So it results in a situation where you're only getting your reps like one day a week, if that. There's a better way. You can develop your nerves in a better way. You can train without resistance, execute the motor pattern, and still get the same skill acquisition effect. Your nervous system will still adapt. So basically, if you do your arm wrestling specific moves without resistance, you'll gain a neuronal adaptation without causing my neighbor's cracking me up. You'll gain a neuronal adaptation without fatiguing the muscles. And that's really important, because if the muscle is the man, there's lots of distractions in this video. The dogs are playing, the neighbor's over. If your muscle fatigue is the limiting factor in your skill training, then you're not actually going to be able to maximize the rate of skill acquisition. So if you basically train in a way that doesn't target the muscle, only targets the motor skills, then you're going to get a way better neuronal adaptation. And so I'm going to include a little clip here from my team captain, who's a 3-time national champion, or I might get these numbers wrong. He's a multi-time national champion and a multi-time world champion. And one of the things he talks about is shadow practice and the importance of practicing your arm wrestling moves against a limp-handed opponent. So the limp-handed opponent doesn't provide any resistance. They let you execute the move on an arm without straining your muscles. And this is seriously like an underappreciated way of training, because you get to thicken those nerves, improve the neural signal without wearing yourself out. And that allows you to get more quality reps than you would had you been training under resistance. From the skill acquisition standpoint that I come from, of like being like a tennis instructor, like as a tennis instructor, when I'm building a new skill, we only do one thing at a time. We're only working on like the forehand for like 2 or 3 weeks. You know, you don't want to interfere with the process by bouncing around between different techniques. That actually causes the consolidation effect to kind of be interfered with. And say you're training your hook, it's not beneficial for you to mix in press work if you're in like a hook focused phase, because basically the last thing that you train before you go to bed is going to be what your nervous system grows. So there's a lot of benefit to just sticking to one thing and working that for a couple weeks until it becomes permanent. Basically, you've probably seen the 4-phase model of skill acquisition. You have the unconscious incompetence phase, where like you don't even know how bad you are. Then you have the conscious competence phase, the conscious incompetence phase, where you're aware of the fact that you're not bad, or that you're not very good. Then you have the conscious competence phase, where you're able to do it well, but only when you're conscious of it, consciously working on it. And then the final phase that we're all after is the unconscious competence phase, where you can do it without even thinking about it. That's what we're all after. We want unconscious competence with our moves, right? So once you've reached that point of unconscious competence, the skill is considered to be consolidated. And a consolidated skill is, like I said, it's vastly more powerful and efficient. You can basically go from the unconscious competence phase, or unconscious incompetence phase to the conscious competence phase in about 4 weeks for like a simple move, like a top roll or something like that. And so you can basically develop, you know, an arsenal of arm wrestling moves in a few months just by doing muscle memory practice. And like I said, it's not actually muscle memory, it's neuronal memory. Muscle memory in reality is basically like having a well myelinated neural highway for that move. The neural signal will take the path of least resistance, and the thickest axons and the most myelinated axons provide that path of least resistance. So when you consolidate a skill, you create a neuronal channel that provides low resistance for the signal, the action potential, and as a result, that leads to you sort of defaulting to that move when things get hairy and you're not able to think about it, you know? So basically you want to get to that point where all of your arm wrestling moves have an element of unconscious competence to them, to where they just happen automatically in response to the stimulus, whether it's, you know, the feeling of your opponent trying to go into a press, you want to just be able to unconsciously dive into the hook. That feeling of a person trying to carve in their wrist, you just unconsciously top roll and break that wrist open, you know? That's what we're all after as arm wrestlers, is that unconscious competence where we have just a massively powerful and efficient neural signal hitting the muscle. So what this ultimately will lead to is what I call invisible strength. It's invisible because your nerves, you can't see externally whether or not someone has highly developed nerves or not. And the person who does have highly developed nerves is going to be able to output a shitload more force than someone who doesn't. So, like I said, you get increased neural drive, improved conductive velocity, better signal preservation, greater muscle recruitment, better motor control, more coordination, more efficient signaling, and automaticity when you consolidate a skill to this point that I'm talking about, where you've drilled it for weeks and it has become autonomous. This leads to greater force output too. That's why I say it's an invisible strength. A person who has a more myelinated neural pathway through a strength skill is going to output more force than someone who doesn't, given the same amount of muscle mass. So in a weight class sport like arm wrestling, where all else equal, it's kind of safe to assume that everyone's working with relatively the same amount of muscle mass, the differentiator is going to be who has better nerves, who's trained the skills better. So that's kind of the gist of what I want to get across here. I'm going to include some clips of Sontino talking about his methods of developing those skills, and also I'm going to show you him proving that it works. The last thing I want to kind of include here, maybe I'll make a separate video of this, is there are some dietary considerations when it comes to skill acquisition. The myelin sheath is a fatty membrane, and so basically what that means is that you want healthy fats in your diet so that you have enough of those raw material to be converted into myelin sheath. So the healthy fats that you want to consider are like the omega-6s, basically all the omega fatty acids, but the omega-3s and 6s are really important. There's also there's a variety of vitamins that you need that will improve your neuronal health, namely magnesium, iron, vitamin C, all the vitamin Bs, glutathione, and cholesterol. Actually, healthy cholesterol does lead to improved myelination. Not only that, but for your nerves to function effectively, you need electrolytes, right? Sodium in particular, but really the full spectrum of electrolytes. What is it? Sodium, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. So all of those electrolytes are important for your nervous system to function properly, especially sodium, because what myelin sheathing does to the nerve is it leads to this effect called saltatory conduction, which effectively is like a chain lightning effect through the nerve. I'm not going to get into the like nitty-gritty of how saltatory conduction works and why myelin sheath leads to a better neuronal signal, but basically it just lets the action potential fire faster and jump through the nerve at a greater rate. So it jumps from the nodes of Ranvier, which are the spaces in between the myelin sheath that kind of have like sodium deposits in them effectively. And so that means you need salt in your diet. You need those electrolytes in your diet. The last consideration when it comes to skill acquisition training as opposed to muscular training is your skills are developed during your sleep. They're not developed as much during the waking time. And so one hack that you can use to increase your rate of skill acquisition and therefore improve your strength progress is take naps, especially naps right after training. Because like I said, the myelination process considers kind of what was last worked on and takes that as the highest priority. So if you take a nap right after you train, you're actually getting the most out of that training. And that also allows you to have 2 training sessions a day. You can kind of double up. Have your morning session, take a nap, consolidate that skill. Have your evening session right before bed, consolidate that skill while you sleep too. Anecdotally, I've been using this method to work on my my static lifts, like the Devin Larratt style lift, the pocket pull lift. And I shit you not, I have put 25% on those lifts since I started training them twice a day, daily. I'm at 88 pounds on my left arm now. I'm almost ready to beat the right arm with my left arm, which was like, I'm way ahead of schedule on that. So I really attribute that to not the fact that I've gained any muscle, because I've barely gained any muscle in my left arm. What I've gained is a highly conductive neural pathway through the specific moves that I'm working on. And ultimately, I think that's what is going to lead to me smashing everybody at Patterson this month, man. I'm really working on my skills, my arm wrestling skills, and I'm feeling it. I'm outputting a ton more force. My practice partners are noticing it. I'm noticing it. I think it works. So that's about everything I wanted to say here. Strength is a skill. The physical manifestation of skill in your body is the myelin sheath around your nerves. The more myelinated your nerves become, the thicker they also become, which leads to them becoming just more powerful and effective in every way. You can acquire skills at an optimal rate by focusing on one skill at a time through deliberate, intentional, slow, perfect practice. You can increase the rate of skill acquisition by having high quality sleep and by taking naps directly after you train. And you can diet in a way that increases and maximizes your skill acquisition by including healthy fats, getting all your electrolytes, and having a good, getting all your vitamins. The basic diet for skill acquisition is just the Mediterranean diet. Everybody knows the Mediterranean diet is optimal for health. It's not just good for heart health, though. It's also good for neuronal and brain health. So that kind of wraps up everything I'm trying to say here. I hope I got this across well enough. I kind of got distracted midway through, but I said everything I needed to say. I encourage you to look deeper into this topic of myelin theory. The main book that I draw from on this is called The Talent Code, and it goes deeper into the myelination process, and it analyzes the various talent hotbeds in history. Talent hotbeds being places that produce disproportionate amounts of elite level performers. There is a secret sauce to producing high levels of skill. It has to do with your environment, the way you train, and the coaches that you have around you. So maybe I'll go more into detail about that later, because I do believe that I'm in an arm wrestling talent hotbed with access to national champions abound. Got the Armbender Garage down south with Tom Nelson and Mike McGraw and all those elites. I got access to Sontino Bravo. I got access to our new, like, top dog, you know, Austin Fenley. And, you know, we got a little bit of a talent hotbed growing here in Sacramento for the arm wrestling world. So, anyway, that book, The Talent Code, talks a little bit about, or talks, not a little bit, it is exclusively about talent hotbeds. What are the qualities that they have and why they work? So check out that book, The Talent Code. Also, I drew upon a book called Muscle Memory in Tennis, written by Archie Dan Smith, who it's basically, he's a physician, and he more or less did like a research paper on how to maximize the rate of skill acquisition for tennis, but the principles applied to any skill, not just tennis specific skill. And the general gist is, like I said, one skill at a time, 3 to 4 weeks, deliberate practice, 2-a-day sessions with naps, and once you've done that, that skill's with you for life. Nerves build pretty quick, but they don't degenerate very quick. That saying, riding a bike, what that is effectively is the fact that when you develop the skill of riding a bike, you're putting it down neuronal hardware. You're changing your nerves, you're changing your hardware, your physical, like electrical system gets permanently changed. And once it sticks, once it's fully myelinated and consolidated, it does not go away. It takes very little maintenance to regain a rusty skill that has been properly acquired. In my experience as a tennis coach, like, one of the things that I find interesting is when my players take time off. Say they go off for Christmas break and they're gone for a month and they don't practice at all. Very often when they come back, they expect to have to relearn the game completely, but what really happens is it's all there. Everything that they properly acquired sticks, and it just comes right back. So I'm sure you've experienced this in your own life with your own skills. And what it is skills are in your nerves, and when your nerves work really well, you work really well. So that's about all I had to say here. I know I said I was going to finish this video like 5 minutes ago, but now I think I really am done. Thank you for making it this far. I hope this was informative. Look up Myelin theory, read the talent code, train your skills every day. Oh yeah, last thing, this is why daily singles work. Daily singles that are loaded properly, that don't cause muscle tears, they do recruit a ton of they recruit a very powerful neural signal, and that leads to a very high rate of skill acquisition. That's why you can go up and up and up on your daily singles every day, because your nerves grow really fast and that neural signal gets more and more powerful every day. So, yep, thank you for making it this far. Have a good day.